just here in my library practicing my harmonica. I have a couple different sizes of harmonicas. They make really big harmonicas, but this one is just small. Let's see what this one sounds like. That one's got a good sound to it. Then I have a little tiny one. Let's see what this one sounds like. Not very loud. Not very much of a good sound. And they make very, very big ones. Other things come in different sizes. Kids come in all shapes and sizes. And in this story, called Aunt Minnie McGranahan, by Mary Skillings Prigger and illustrated by Betsy Lewin, who's also the illustrator who does the Click Clack Moo books that we've seen, so these pictures will look very familiar to you. She comes across the situation where she suddenly has children in all shapes and sizes that she has to deal with. Let's see how Minnie handles this situation. Minnie McGranahan had no children. Minnie was small and tidy, and she always dressed as though she was ready for company. She had a neat little house. She had a neat little garden. She had a neat little barn with chickens and cows, and she had a system. In Minnie's house, everything happened on a certain day. She cleaned and washed on Mondays and Thursdays. She baked and stitched on Tuesdays and Fridays. And every day she fed the chickens, the cows, and her horse. It's lucky Minnie McGranahan has no children. Children might interfere with Minnie's system, agreed the neighbors. But one day in 1920, a telegram came all the way from North Dakota to St. Clair, Kansas. It said, "Come quick. Your brother and his wife have had an accident. Their children are orphans in need of a home." The people in the town of St. Clair said, "What does that Minnie McGranahan know about children? Whatever will she do with them?" But Minnie paid no attention. She put on her dress with the lace collar and cuffs and her white gloves and took the train from Kansas to North Dakota to fetch her nieces and nephews. The oldest was 10 and the babies were 8 months. Some of them were triplets, some of them were twins, and some of them were onlys. There were 9 of them in all, 3 girls and 6 boys. Aunt Minnie brought them all back with her on the train. Everyone in the town of St. Clair said, "9 kids! How will she manage? 9 kids are more trouble than a litter of kittens." But Aunt Minnie paid no mind. She was a problem solver, and she had a system. Her system was that the oldest looked after the youngest, the ones in the middle looked after each other, and Aunt Minnie looked after them all. She taught them how to stand in line, how to wait their turn, and how to help with chores. Now, some of the kids resisted, but Aunt Minnie persisted. And some kids were bakers, some washed clothes, some stitched the quilts, and some cooked the soup. Some fed the chickens and gathered eggs, and some hoed the garden. The oldest always looked after the youngest. The ones in the middle looked after each other, and Aunt Minnie looked after them all. Aunt Minnie had a system for baths. The oldest lugged buckets from the well and heated the water. The middle ones held the towels and mopped the floor. The cleanest bathed first, the dirtiest bathed last. The oldest looked after the youngest, and Aunt Minnie checked for dirt. Aunt Minnie had a system for the Johnny house. It was short and simple. Stand in line, wait your turn, and help with buttons. Once a week, Aunt Minnie took her kids to town in her Model T Ford. Kids scattered in all directions to run errands. Aunt Minnie sat behind the wheel with the littlest ones and waited until they all came back. Some brought coffee, some brought fabric, some brought chicken feed, and there were candy sticks for all. Aunt Minnie had a system for keeping her kids neat. She put stocking tops on their heads to tame unruly curls. She cut trousers short to keep them from getting dirty. She put itchy starched collars on dresses and shirts. "Well, who would believe it?" said everybody in the town of St. Clair. "They look like proper children." Now, sometimes those kids were stubborn and sometimes they would fret. Sometimes they liked to race through chores and sometimes they liked to dawdle. Some of the kids would pout and cry. But Aunt Minnie used her special system for getting those chores done. Her system didn't allow for idleness, but it did allow for fun. Many hands make light work, and laughing makes it appear lighter, she said. So there was plenty of laughter and plenty of noise mixed into chores. Aunt Minnie's kids made relay races of scrubbing the boardwalk. They juggled with the eggs. They had target practice with the corn husks. They wrestled and they danced, and they worked the farm. And Aunt Minnie tended to them all. And of an evening, when chores and supper were done, Aunt Minnie got out her harmonica. She played tunes while the kids square danced and sang until the little ones fell asleep and were carried off to bed. In Aunt Minnie's good night system, no one had to stand in line for a hug. The oldest hugged the youngest, the ones in the middle hugged each other, and Aunt Minnie hugged them all. Aunt Minnie kept her kids until they grew up. One by one, they left the neat little house. But they came back to visit with their wives and their husbands and their children, and they never forgot Aunt Minnie's system, especially the hugging system. Everybody in the town of St. Clair said, "Well, who would believe it? Minnie McGranahan must have liked children after all." Well, I liked that book. I hoped you liked it. I don't know if would listening to a harmonica soothe you and make you fall asleep at night? I don't know if that would for me. Let's try it. I'll say goodbye now. See you later.